Okay. Call yourself into some near territory to your body. Somewhere in the vicinity of your body is where we all want to be right now. Oh, well, welcome. I'm Reverend Karyl Huntley, and it is such a lovely day. A lot of people that I haven't seen in a while are back. That's wonderful. And what is really sweet is that you go right to your seats. Right to, now, you know, like Todd is in his wrong seat. He's usually over here. But see, I know all your places. So, but you can be there, Todd. It's good. So welcome everybody, and especially people who are here for the first time. If there's anyone here that's here for the first time or back after a long time, we have the people from the membership team here with the little packets for you. And inside the packet is a blue card, and if you fill that out, you get a free book. If you give it back to these people, my book is in the car today, unfortunately, but the system still works. So anybody here for the first time that would like a packet? All family today. Okay, well, thank you ladies, and welcome home, everyone. Today, we are back with our values for 2017, and I'll say this now, you know, on your bulletin here, for those of you that haven't been with us right along, this little place right here is for you to call into your awareness a value that you would like to live this week. And then you post this on your refrigerator or someplace like that, and you are reminded, and it's amazing how the universe brings an opportunity for you to practice peace, or brings an opportunity for you to practice faith. And I hear all the time from people who are using this, and today, a couple who is relatively new to our community, Sage Lewis and her husband, James Shawtower, are going to come and share. Yay!
Are you coming up?
Yep.
Good morning. So a while back, I bought this fun little like office thing where you put things in it and pens and things like that, and it had this chalkboard across the front. And we had no idea what we were going to use the chalkboard for, but I just bought it anyway because it was cute and it was on sale. And then, you know, maybe 2 weeks later, we came to church and there was this thing with the values. So we've decided every week we put both of our values on this chalkboard. And it's in the kitchen. So one thing that I really appreciate about it is that it holds me accountable, because mine's out there for him to see, and it holds him accountable because I can see what he's working on as well.
That's so sweet.
And so this past week, is it okay if I share yours?
Go right ahead.
All right. This past week, my word was presence, and his word was courage. And what I realized for me when I first, and I ask Great Spirit every week, what's this word that I'm needing to step into? So presence came this past week, and I thought, oh good, I'll get to practice being present with other people. That was my thought. And it completely sideswiped me and turned around where this whole week I've been being asked to be more present to myself. Being present to the feelings that are coming up. Anger, fear, sadness, joy, anxiety, peace, bliss, all sorts of being really present to the need for food, or the need for rest, or the need for water, or the need for play. And then in that, being present to my husband's word of courage, and noticing the compassion as he is moving into that place of his value for the week. So this next week is simplicity, so we'll see what shows up for me.
I'm attracted to shiny things, and I pick them off the ground and I collect things and put them places where I can see the sparkle that's in the world. And I also married a shiny person. And the beautiful thing about shiny is that it reflects, and I often get to see sometimes a scary, sometimes a revealing mirror as I look at my beloved and as I look at the shiny world that's always available. And I had a morning this week where I woke up feeling very troubled. I had talked myself up into a tree of anxiety in the middle of the night, and I was staring at the ceiling, and she said, "What's up?" And I started talking, and she said, "Can you look at me?" Mm-hmm. And it was a courageous 5 inches for me to just roll over to be seen. And once I arrived and saw her, the feelings started flowing, and I needed to grieve something. And so that was my courageous journey. It was only 5 inches, but sometimes it's hard to be seen. And yet being seen in her divine light is comforting. So anyway, that's my courageous story.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. Oh. That is the best. Thank you. And just keep those stories coming, because we are all teachers and we're all learners here. So we're starting a new month, May. No. Another M month here, and it's March. There we go. And the theme for March that many Centers for Spiritual Living are exploring this month is this one right up here: education and continuous improvement. So, this denomination, which is the philosophy is science of mind. It started out being religious science before it became Centers for Spiritual Living. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, had a teaching order first. He taught classes. And actually, even when he lectured, his lectures were lessons. And so in the 1930s, this denomination started as a teaching order when Dr. Ernest Holmes would fill a theater, a 5,000-seat theater, several times a month with these principles. The principles did not originate in 1930. They have been around forever. It is done unto you as you believe is basically it. But it takes so much study and application to make a good life for ourselves using this philosophy that works for everybody. So the values that we're holding today are starting out with growth, taking the idea from our monthly theme, education and continuous improvement. So in the Science of Mind textbook, it's written, "We can never completely fathom the infinite mind. We shall always be discovering new lands. Consequently, evolution is an eternal unfoldment of the more yet to be." So a basic tenet of our philosophy is that when we say we can embody more, we can embody more, we can embody more, that evolutionary push in us is not to have more cars necessarily or bigger houses, but how to experience more joy, how to experience more peace, how to experience more love in our lives. And so the idea is that we can continuously have more. However much we have, we can have more. That's the evolutionary principle of growth. One of the other values that we're talking about today is right momentum. Right momentum is a Buddhist concept. It's one of the 8 spokes in the eightfold path of enlightenment. And what it means is we just keep on keeping on. We just keep doing the same thing, going in the same direction. Thomas Troward, who is one of the great inspirers of our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, wrote this, that every single person who is a practitioner or in practitioner studies has memorized this. "My mind is a center of divine operation. Divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. That's that evolutionary principle again. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before, something entirely new, not included in past experience, though proceeding out of it in an orderly sequence of growth. And then the quote goes on. But the idea is, in this orderly sequence of growth, is that we are in this right momentum, and if we just keep doing what we know to do, and that is look for the good and praise it, among other things, tell the truth, forgive, and be patient, and all of those other spiritual practices, that our life will be enhanced forever and forever and forever, right through the doorway called death. We imagine that this evolutionary principle goes beyond that as well. The last value that we're talking about today is discernment. Because when we get on this track of forever evolving and forever yet again looking for the good and praising it when we're having one of those moments, many people have come to me for counseling and they say, can't I just rest? Can't I just stop for a bit? Do I have to keep working all the time to clarify my consciousness and to forgive and to tell the truth? Can't I just stop and watch TV for a while or something? And so discernment is really important because you can get exhausted, which is in the title of the talk, and that is how to be continuously transformed and not exhausted. So I love this image of, this girl is not riding her bicycle up the hill and being exhausted. She's walking it, and she's got the help of the balloons. So she's still going up, but we don't have to be exhausted, and the whole talk today is how to keep going forward and not be exhausted. Does this sound good to anybody? Yes. Yay! All right, good. So we're all on a path of life. We're all on this path. Whether we're pushing on the path or gently walking up the hill, we're always on a path. And that's what the altar is about today. Now, dear Gail was sick yesterday, and so I got to do the altar. And so this is the framed picture is from Mykonos, but it says to me the life path. It's lit by the sun. It goes out into the mystery of the ocean, and it's everybody's life path. And all of our life paths are beautiful, the roses and the candles, and illumined by the angels. So that is about the life path. So what I'm going to suggest to you today is actually my interpretation of the life path. This is not, I didn't find this in Ernest Holmes. So if it doesn't make sense to you, just forget about it. Hopefully you've already had a wonderful experience today. But I think, honestly, that there are at least 3 kinds of life paths. That's what I'm going to talk about today. And we inhabit each one at one time or another. And when we understand the difference in these types of paths, we can shift when we feel overwhelmed or sad. We can say, okay, I thought this was my path. No, it's this path I'm on right now. We can shift it, okay? So you with me? You ready to explore this? I like this myself, so I do. All right, so here's one life path. So the Aboriginal Worldview, I have this wonderful book called Voices of the First Day, and it's about the Aborigines in Australia and their philosophy of many different aspects of life. But basically, they have a creation story that goes the ancestors in interacting with each other, in fighting with each other, in making love with each other, in having all of these experiences. The ancestors were so powerful that their living created the land and the structures. So when we have a plane, it's because the ancestors experienced peace or whatever. I don't know the exact one-to-one equivalent. But the idea is that the world was created in this time out of time called dream time. And dream time is actually still operating. And so when you go to these places on the land, you are actually still experiencing the ancestors creating them with whatever was going on with the ancestors. And so it's a forever thing, a forever creation and forever in the land. And so the idea, and in this they don't like Darwin evolutionary idea. It writes, basic to the Darwinian creation myth is what has been called the ladder mentality. This image has infected all aspects of our view of the world. The ladder symbolizes a climb through gradual stages from the simple to the complex, and they say military, government, economic systems, the hero or star orientation of Western popular culture and art, the educational grading system, the science of theories and truths that rise to overthrow the ignorance of the past. The ladder image is there, stimulating the drive for competition. So, what they would say, rather, is that wherever you are in another place in God. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you're on one step or the next step or the next step. You're in another place in God. So, I want us to just feel into this for a minute and think without judgment of ourself or another, that everybody, no matter what they're doing, no matter what they're experiencing, they're in some place in God. Now, if you try that on, and you think you shouldn't be anyplace else, or somebody that you're looking at shouldn't be anyplace else, there's a lovely allowing. Do you see? There's a piece of letting be. They're there. I'm here. It's just another place in God. You might just try that on with somebody that you're disagreeing with. Well, they're just there in God, and I'm here in God. See, it's kind of easy. It's kind of non-judgmental. Okay? That's one path, which isn't really a path. It's a point. A point here, a point there, blah, blah. Next, we got this path. This is the curve of cultures, of governments, and of a lifetime where we feel like we are at our prime, and then things start breaking down. And the idea in this life path is that there are energy peaks, and then things pull back. There's a time of great activity, and then there's a time of inactivity. In the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, this says it perfectly. To everything, there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. And it goes on from there. But the idea is that there is a time for everything, and things peak and then things recede. So the words about describing this path are earthly life peaks and then declines. And it seems to happen much of the time. It happens in a process of, we go into a job and we have a learning curve, and then we max out that particular skill set, and then it's like, well, isn't there anything else? And then we kind of feel like we're on the downslope until our life has many peaks and valleys, right? And can you feel that in your own life, that you've had peaks and valleys? Yeah. So this is another life path. Then we have this life path. This is the evolutionary life path, the ever-evolving consciousness, the growth, the ever-rising ability to encompass more of God. And the words here are, we continue to evolve into greater. So in the Bible, let's see if I can turn right to this. Maybe not. Corinthians, where it says, but we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. What this means is that when we look into the face of God, we become the face. And when we continually look into the face of God and become the face of God, we are naturally moved from glory to glory. We naturally go up that incline. We are changed because of the image of God, and we can't help it. So I'm going to suggest that that from Ernest Holmes and from our Judeo-Christian background and from systems theory and from biology, and here we've got, I have all my entire library here for you today. This is Meg Wheatley. She's a biologist, and what she says is, everything is in a constant process of discovery and creating. Life uses messes to get to well-ordered solutions. She doesn't like Darwin either. She says Darwin is much too harsh. You know, the survival of the fittest. You don't have to be the fittest. You have to be fit enough. You have to be just okay enough, and you're fine. And then she says everything participates in the creation and evolution of its neighbors. So the idea from most of our background, what we're most comfortable with is this one, that we actually are evolving, and if left alone, just by our very interaction with each other, we are going to grow and develop. So, my suggestion is we embrace this one and the others. But what I want to say about this one is that we get exhausted when we think that we have to push ourselves all the time or judge ourselves when it feels like we're not advancing. Or, for God's sakes, judge ourselves when it feels like we're going backwards. Like, perhaps you have gone against your vows perhaps 1,000 times. Then we feel, oh no, I am never going to make it. I am a bad human. So the lesson for today is to use the other models when it serves us. So Mary, can I get back to the first one? So what about... Okay, no dots? Okay, let me just... Okay, well, there's an infinite number of dots here. Okay, yeah. So what would happen, you remember how they look, just another place in God, right? The next time you really screw up, or somebody else screws up, or the next time you're really disappointed, or the next time you don't measure up to what you think you should be doing, what if you said, well, that's just fascinating. I'm in another place in God. I didn't think I'd be here, but here I am. It's this place instead of the other place. And we had that feeling of allowing that we kind of felt into at first. So that if we are on the evolutionary line up the ladder, and all of a sudden we slip way back down to the bottom, just hop over to this other model of a life path and say, well, I'm just in another place in God. And then you have something like Rumi who says to you, Hafez rather, this place where you are right now, God circled on the map for you. So what happens when we screw up is that we judge ourselves and judge where we end up. But instead, if we said to ourselves, God has circled this place on the map just for me, then we could more easily find the blessings of where we end up, which are not available to us if we're judging ourselves negatively, right? Right. Okay, so you're going to try that? The next time it's like, oh no, you just go, oh, I am in another place in God. All right? Okay, let's go to this curvy one. Okay, all right, here's the curvy one. Now, I imagine some of you are feeling overwhelmed right now. I mean, I just have this inkling. I've spoken to someone only this morning who feels this way. What would happen if the next time you feel overwhelmed or too busy or too full or too tired, you hop over to this model and say to yourself, well, it's time to assume that I am over the peak and I can pull back. Now, the interesting thing about consciousness is you don't even have to pull back. You can say to yourself, I assume I am over the peak. If you really get that in your consciousness, that you are over the peak, the water's calm for you. And you are not overwhelmed anymore. So, you're willing to try that one? Next time you feel overwhelmed, you just go, okay, I am going to go to that bell curve and I'm going to assume that I'm on the downside. And the universe will conform to you. So in this incline one, once again, it's not hard. If we continually, with right momentum, look for the good, look for God, wherever we find ourselves, we will find a blessing. And then with discernment, we refrain from judging negatively. That's the best use of discernment. To say this little feeling I'm having of self-flagellation, that is not a good thing. In my discernment, I am not going there anymore. I am assuming that I am one place in God, or I'm assuming that I've already gone over the peak and I can rest a little now. And what happens is we will continually grow in consciousness because an orderly sequence of growth is the natural way of things. Polly Behrens writes this, it's so sweet. Our struggling has made us mistrustful, but it is only that we are not obeying the laws. There are unfolding forces that we are opposing. All our struggles are self-drownings. We try to use each other to stay on top of a seemingly alien milieu, a void. In truth, it is not a void, but God, with which, in reality, we are one, and in which we could float securely and frolic freely together if we only understood how to let it uphold us. Letting go of is hard. Letting go into is wonderful. And that's what each one of these things does, because you know, managing your life and managing your experience is really about managing consciousness. You don't have to do much, but you do need to manage your consciousness. And every single practitioner session you have, every single class you take, every one of your teachers and practitioners are trying to show you every single spiritual tool they have in their kit so that you can pull out one when you need it so you can manage your own life. So today, I've given you 3 life paths for you to choose so that you can manage your consciousness and not judge yourself negatively or spiral into despair, because every place is another place in God. And all you do is enough. And you just sitting here in your body and looking for the good and looking for God, you're going to evolve because everybody else around you is as well. Okay? Okay. Here is where we've all been going. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That is what is essential, and that's the only thing that works in managing your life, is renewing your mind. So, for your consideration of values this week, growth, right momentum, and discernment. I so want each one of you to find a point in your life to use one of these leaps onto another life path and see how that works for you. Because suffering does not do anyone any good, least of all you. And so with that, I would like to ask the practitioners to surround the room. And so as we turn within and imagine that the evolution of our consciousness is being taken care of for us as long as we keep our eye on the good. Imagine that those balloons that were on that bicycle are attached to your shoulders. And as you go through life, you simply feel the uplift. You feel a little lighter every time you imagine those balloons on your shoulders. And you realize that wherever you were descending into fear or confusion, there is no law to support that. There is no law to support fear or separation. There is no law to support negative self-judgment. There is self-correction. The self-correction in consciousness, and then following the shift of consciousness by action that corresponds to love, peace, poise, and power. That is all we need for the evolutionary push of the consciousness of the infinite, the mind of the maker, working in our own mind. For it is the natural way of things to evolve in an orderly sequence of growth. I claim that for each one of us this morning with ease and grace, and so it is. Amen.
problem.